How would you describe yourself?
An average farmer's wife who's involved on a day-to-day basis on the farm, backing up John domestically, and when things go wrong, having to try and help him work through it, and just enjoying what's happening on a day-to-day basis, and probably realising as well how lucky we are to live the life that we do.
Great. Can you describe your book to us?
Well, I've tried to write it as a diary of events on a day-to-day basis, so it goes right through the farming year. So as we live on, we have a mixed farm, so it will go through from calving at the start of the year, moving into lambing, and then when we go to making silage, clipping and dipping the sheep, well, no longer dipping them, they're sprayed off at the back, and then coming into harvest, haymaking before that, and then sowing the crops again, and moving through the summer with the cattle when they will be weaned towards in the autumn, and then the stock coming back inside, and into topping time then, and then as the year draws to a close, the cows are all back in the yard, the ewes are all outside, and the year moves on.
What do you like most about your life on farm?
I think it's the diversity of life that we have here on the farm. Also, it's the sociable aspects. We have a lot of friends that are connected to us because of farming. We share our lives with many other people. It's working with stock, it's seeing the seasons change. I think it's just a very sociable and emotional as well as a way of life. You have so many ups and downs. You can be joyful one moment because you've had a calf, and then perhaps something will be happening in the next few days, and it's a real variety that's there on offer. You just literally don't know what's going to happen from one day to the next.
Is there anything that you dislike about your life here?
Not really, no. Very happy here. Yeah.
So what are the biggest challenges that you face?
More money.
What are the biggest challenges that you face on the farm, would you say?
I think it will probably be the increasing bureaucracy that's taken place, the need for more form filling and accountability, which traceability, which I can see all the benefits of that as well, but it's another task at the end of the day.
Is there anything you'd sort of change about the farm if you could?
I think we've got used to doing things the way we do, although, as I say, we do complain about some of the bureaucracy. I think we've fitted into it. It would be easy to say we'd change all that, and probably if you ask John, that's what he would say. But we do manage it within our lives, I think.
You've got a lot of pets in addition to your farm animals, and they play a large part in Hens, Hooves, Woollies and Wellies. If you had to choose, which one would be your favourite?
Well, it would be very difficult because they all bring their own characters and personalities and loves. I think it would be traitorous to say that one was preferred more to another. They all have their own roles. Meg is invaluable with Meg. That was the sheepdog before. Fizz. There's been a long line of sheepdogs. They're invaluable to our life, especially the sheepdogs, and Millie as well, as a vermin control on the farm, is vital. Pip is probably more of a leisure dog with the John's shooting, although she offers a great deal of companionship. I suppose Millie lives in the house, would be on the bed if she had a chance every night. I suppose she is the one who we play with every night on the sofa. When she brings you her, she has a selection of toy rats that she brings you continuously. But all of them, we love all of them.
So, well, moving on from that, farming's a pretty non-stop job, isn't it? So how do you and John relax at the end of the day, other than Millie coming along and playing with her
rat? It also, I think farming also brings a good social life with it. We have our friends all have the same interests. We go on holiday with quite a few of them. We go fishing with them, and we also, John's on a number of shoots, all of which have a good social life attached to them. So I think our friends are important to us, but also our family is important to us, our children, our grandchildren. So I think we have a full life.
Brilliant. What inspired you to start writing about your life on the farm?
Well, one day I was sat watching, there'd been the men collecting in the yard to go on a shoot, and it just amused me. At that time, John would take them round in the back of a trailer, and they all sat on rows, clumps of not clumps, bales of straw. John had lined that, and I just saw all the men sitting there holding their guns, sat on a bale of straw, waiting to be driven off to go on a shoot, and it just tickled me watching them, and I sort of started writing about them.
Yeah. Brilliant.
Right, just the variety of farm life. There's always something happening.
Great. Do you have plans to write anything after Hens, Hooves, Woolies and Wellies?
Well, it would be wonderful if people enjoyed the book. Yes, I hope I could write another book.
A sequel to
a sequel.
A sequel
Yes.
to it. Brilliant.
More of the same.
So what did you do before you got married to John and started working with him on the farm?
Well, I think it mentioned before I was married before I was married John, and my husband at that time had an export business, so I worked with him on that. But also I was originally a social worker, so I originally worked as a social worker, and then in latter years I worked in education on social work and residential care for children.
Lovely.
But that was a long while ago.
And is there any advice you'd give to your younger self or to other people about getting into farming or marriage to a farmer?
I think I've been very fortunate marrying a farmer, especially John. He's been the love of my life, and I think I'm very lucky. I think my children have been very lucky having John as a father. I should have done it sooner.
Is there anything specific about the actual farming side of things that you maybe would advise people to do, or that you might have done differently if you knew what you knew now?
I don't think so.
No.
I don't think so. I think John is very far-sighted. I think he thinks things through. So, for example, when we came out of milk, he thought about it for a long time, and I think now with hindsight, it was a good move. And the move into a suckler herd, it was taken with a great deal of thought. And I don't think John does anything in a hasty fashion, and he knows so much more than I do. Anything about farming I know, I've learnt from him.
And have you got any thoughts on sort of the problems that dairy farmers are experiencing at the moment?
I think we came out at the time we did probably with more benefit than people do now. I think there's a lot of people coming out of dairy farming. We have a dairy farmer in the business. He worked in the farm in the village, and whatever time of night. You get up, the lights are on, you can hear working. It's a constant job, very hard work. And with other friends in dairy farming, and I think the returns are hard won. Yeah.
Have you got any thoughts about how the upcoming referendums and Brexit might affect farming?
I think there's so much information and advice from either side. It's very difficult to take a view on it because you only hear what the politicians want you to hear. I've sort of looked to see what guidance the NFU say. They seem to advise on the whole that we should be staying in. It's you see how Norway has gone. They've never been in the EU, but at the same time they still have to conform with a lot of the EU regulations. I think at the time when it comes, we'll just look and see what the best advice is. Yeah. April 7th. Tonight, Pip has come perilously close to eviction from the house. She frequently sleeps in the porch, even though she and Fizz have kennels with runs under a grain shed. In the porch we have a large fluffy beanbag for her to sleep on. Miraculously, although she's chewed up many of her toys and beds, the beanbag has remained intact until tonight. The porch looks like a snowstorm has hit with a vengeance. We shall be sweeping up polystyrene balls forever. If she pulls off the impossible and stays in tonight, she will not have a bed that moulds itself to her shape. It's a cold tiled floor instead. April 14th. Dangerous task completed today. Retagging 2 bulls that are due to go to market tomorrow. They'd lost their ear tags somewhere in the muck and straw of the fold yard, either by rubbing their heads against a wall, snagging their ears in a gate, or maybe they just fell out. They do. At least 2 farmers have been killed or seriously injured recently putting ear tags back in again. The demand for traceability can demand a terrible price. To retag the bulls, John has to first order replacement tags and then coax the bulls into the crush so as to punch a hole through their lugs with the new tags. Unsurprisingly, they're not keen to cooperate. The first bull went into the crush without any fuss, so did the tag into its ear. The second bull was having none of it, having watched its mate being assaulted. John had lifted the crush into their yard with a tractor and positioned the crush against a wall with a gate to swing round to push the bulls in. 1,200 hundredweight of bull decided not to play. As soon as the bull reached a critical point in the game, he just pushed past John and I and turned round to join his friends in the yard. It's getting too dangerous to continue, John said. The bulls are getting more and more excited and we're not going to achieve anything other than a hospital admission for ourselves. Eventually we managed and collapsed inside with a reviving cuppa. April 22nd. Jessica, who is staying with us over the holidays as her mum is working and cannot get cover, is telling everyone who visits my shortcomings as a shepherdess. You see, Papa told Mama to look after the sheep and she was too busy washing up to go and look at them, and one of the lambs was dead. It was all her fault. If the death penalty was still in force, I would have been for the gallows on her evidence alone, with no chance of reprieve. True, I did get distracted by domestic chores whilst John took a well-earned sleep after lunch, but on the other hand, I've saved at least 2 lambs this year from suffocation when they were born. Unless the mucus or caul around and in their nostrils and mouth is cleared, the lambs cannot breathe. It's a very dispiriting death to witness, to have got so far and then be unable to breathe life-giving oxygen just because no one is immediately to hand. You feel absolutely drained, depressed and downhearted. What a waste. And then your granddaughter never stops going on about it and does not let you forget.